I never thought I'd be writing something like this, but here I am, spilling my guts on the internet about what went down in my life. My name's Mike, and I was married to Sarah for the last 7 years. We were the kind of couple that people looked at and thought, wow, they have it all together. But like a lot of things that seem perfect from a distance, the truth was much more complicated. The cracks started appearing about 6 months ago. At first, it was subtle. Sarah would come home late from work, claiming she was stuck finishing up a project. I trusted her, so I believed her. But then those late nights turned into an almost weekly occurrence, and it started eating away at me. It didn't make sense. She had always been dedicated to her job, but this felt different. She was distant, too, barely engaging in our usual banter, her laughter replaced with a distracted smile. It got to the point where I felt like a ghost in my own home. One evening, I found myself waiting outside our house. I was convinced she was wrapped up in another late-night meeting. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, and I paced the driveway, replaying our last conversation in my mind. Sarah had told me she needed to make a good impression on a new client, and I wanted to support her, but the longer I waited, the more I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It was getting close to midnight when I noticed the neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, watering her plants. She caught my eye and walked over, a concerned look on her face. "Mike, dear, is everything okay? You've been waiting out here for quite a while." I managed a weak smile and shrugged, just waiting for Sarah, she's working late. Mrs. Thompson's brow furrowed as she leaned in. "You know, I saw her leave with someone earlier. It was around 8. I assumed they were just going to grab dinner or something, but—" Her voice trailed off and my heart sank. I felt sick. This couldn't be happening. My mind raced as I tried to piece together what I had just heard. Sarah had always been the one I could count on. I thought we were happy. As I stood there, the weight of reality pressed down on me like a 1,000-pound boulder. I thanked Mrs. Thompson and quickly went inside, my heart pounding and my hands tense. I needed to know the truth. I dug through her things, looking for anything that might confirm my worst fears. My gut twisted as I came across her phone, which buzzed with a message from a contact I didn't recognize. The name was saved as Work Buddy. I hesitated, knowing I was crossing a line, but I opened it anyway. The messages were flirtatious, playful, definitely not work-related. My heart dropped and a mix of anger and betrayal surged through me. I felt like I was in a daze as I pieced it all together. The late nights, the lies, the distance. It was all a facade, a cover for her infidelity. My world shattered in that moment, and I knew I had to confront her. When Sarah finally came home, I stood in the living room waiting for her. I didn't know how to approach her without losing my mind, but I needed answers. When she walked through the door, her face lit up, but that quickly faded when she saw my expression. "Hey, what's wrong?" she said, her voice laced with concern. I blurted it out, the words tumbling from my mouth like a dam breaking. "Who is Work Buddy? Are you cheating on me, Sarah?" Her eyes widened, and for a moment there was silence. Then she started backpedaling, her words tumbling out in a frantic rush. "Mike, it's not what you think. I swear, it's just work. You've always been so paranoid." I couldn't believe her. She was lying right to my face, and in that moment I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak that I had never experienced before. I wanted to scream, to throw things, but instead I just stood there numb. She continued to plead her case, but I couldn't listen. Every excuse she offered felt like another stab to my heart. The emotional impact was devastating. I felt like I was drowning in a sea of anger, sadness, and confusion. How could the woman I loved betray me like this? I was in shock, and the pain twisted my stomach like a vice. As the confrontation continued, a part of me wanted to believe her lies. I wanted to grasp onto any shred of hope that our marriage was still salvageable. But deep down, I knew that trust had been shattered beyond repair. There I stood, facing the woman I thought I knew, and yet I was looking at a stranger. I had to decide what to do next, and the weight of that decision loomed over me like a dark cloud. What would I do? How would I move forward? To be continued. I spent that night in a daze, unable to sleep as memories of our life together flooded my mind. I replayed moments of laughter, love, and intimacy. It was frustrating to think that they were all now tainted by this horrible revelation. I kept asking myself how I could have been so blind. I had ignored all the signs, convinced that our relationship was strong enough to weather any storm. But the rain had come, and it was a torrential downpour. The next morning, I woke up with a heavy chest and a throbbing headache. I didn't know if I could face Sarah again. The confrontation from the night before echoed in my mind. Her desperate attempts at denial only fueled the anger burning inside me. I wanted to scream, to throw things, to hurt her as she had hurt me, but I knew that wasn't the answer. I needed to think logically about what I wanted. After a few hours of packing and contemplating, I finally decided to confront her again, this time with a clearer mind. I needed her to understand that this was not something that could simply be brushed aside. She had crossed a line, and I deserved to know exactly what had happened. When Sarah woke up, I found her sitting at the kitchen table, sipping her coffee, looking like nothing had changed. It made my blood boil. How could she act so normal? I pulled out a chair and sat across from her, my expression serious. "Sarah, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady but strained. She looked up, her eyes wide with a mix of apprehension and defiance. "Mike, can we just forget about last night? I told you it was just a misunderstanding." I shook my head, cutting her off. "No, we can't just forget it. You have to tell me the truth. Who is this work buddy? How long has this been going on?" Her expression shifted, and for a moment I thought I saw guilt flash across her face. "It's not important. It was a stupid fling. I didn't mean for it to go that far." "A fling, so you admit it then?" I practically shouted, feeling the heat rise in my chest. "You're saying you were unfaithful. How could you do this to me? We had a life together." Her eyes narrowed and she crossed her arms defensively. "You make it sound so dramatic. It wasn't like that. We were just having fun, Mike. You don't know what it's like in the office. Everyone is so stressed, and Kyle, he just made me feel good about myself." "Kyle, so you do know his name?" I snapped back. "What do you mean he made you feel good? Are you kidding me right now?" She opened her mouth as if to defend herself, but I could see she was struggling. The excuses were weak, and the reality of her betrayal hung heavy in the air between us. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my emotions. "You need to understand that I can't just brush this off. You've shattered my trust. I need to know if you even want to fix this. Are you willing to work on our marriage, or is Kyle more important to you?" It was her turn to look conflicted, and that tiny flicker of uncertainty gave me a glimmer of hope. But then she spoke, and my heart sank once again. "I don't know, Mike. I feel lost right now." Lost? I couldn't believe the words coming out of her mouth. I felt like I was talking to a stranger. The woman I had dedicated my life to was sitting in front of me, and yet she felt so distant. "Lost? You chose to cheat on me, Sarah," I shouted, my voice rising again. "This isn't something that just happened. It was a choice, a conscious decision you made. How am I supposed to trust you after this?" She looked down at her hands, and for the first time I could see tears pooling in her eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you. I was just— I don't know, I felt neglected." "It's no excuse, but it's the truth." I wanted to scream again, but instead I felt something else, an overwhelming sadness. The woman I loved was admitting to her wrongs, but the hurt was too deep. I stood up from the table, feeling a mix of anger and heartbreak. "Maybe you should really think about what you want, Sarah, because I don't think I can do this anymore," I said, my voice shaking slightly. With that, I walked out of the kitchen, my heart heavy with the weight of the situation. I needed to clear my head to figure out what to do next. I spent the rest of the day in a haze, wandering around town, trying to distract myself. I visited the gym, went for a long run, anything to escape the reality of my life. But there was no escaping the truth. I felt like a fool for ever believing that we were invincible. When I returned home that evening, the atmosphere was tense. Sarah was sitting on the couch, and I could see that she had been crying. My heart softened slightly, but I quickly reminded myself of the betrayal. "Mike," she said, her voice shaky, "I know I messed up. Can we please talk about this?" I hesitated, uncertainty flooding my mind. What was there left to say? Could we actually fix this, or was it too late? The emotional turmoil inside me continued to swirl, and I realized that the decision I had to make would be life-changing. To be continued. As I stood in the doorway, watching Sarah on the couch, I felt torn. Part of me wanted to rush over and comfort her, to soothe the pain we were both feeling. But another part of me roared with anger, reminding me of the betrayal that had shattered our world. I crossed my arms and leaned against the wall, trying to find the right words amidst the storm brewing inside me. "Mike, please," she pleaded, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know I messed up. I never meant for it to go this far." I took a deep breath, steeling myself against the wave of emotions threatening to crash over me. "You need to understand how serious this is, Sarah. You lied to me. You chose to be with someone else instead of talking to me about what was bothering you." She looked down at her hands, wringing them nervously. I realized that now I was stupid and selfish. Kyle made me feel alive again, like I was someone other than your wife. I wanted that feeling, but I didn't think about what it would do to you. What you did wasn't just a mistake, it was a choice. I shot back, feeling the frustration building inside me. You had the option to come to me to talk about how you were feeling, but instead you went to him. "I know," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "And I'm so sorry. I thought I could keep it a secret and it wouldn't hurt you. I thought it was just a fling." I shook my head, trying to wrap my mind around her words. "A fling? That's what you call 7 months of cheating. You think that's just a casual mistake. Please, Mike." She looked up, desperation etched across her face. "I'm begging you to understand, I was lonely. I felt like I was drowning in our routine and I didn't know what else to do. I thought if I had some excitement outside of our marriage, it would help." Excitement. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You think betraying your husband is excitement? It's not just about you, Sarah. You made a commitment to me and you broke it." "I know," she sobbed, her shoulders shaking. "I don't know how to fix this. I don't want to lose you. Do you want to fix this?" I asked, my voice softer now. "Because it feels like you're more concerned about yourself than about what you've done to our marriage." She fell silent for a moment, her gaze falling to the floor as if she were searching for answers hidden in the carpet fibers. "I want to fix it. I love you, Mike. I just got caught up in the moment and lost sight of what really mattered." Love. That word hung in the air, heavy and complicated. How could she say she loved me after everything? I felt like I was being pulled in two different directions, wanting to believe her, yet grappling with the pain of what she had done. "Sarah, I don't know if I can just forgive and forget," I admitted, my voice faltering. "This changes everything. Trust isn't something you can just rebuild overnight." "I'll do whatever it takes," she said, her voice filled with determination. "I'll go to counseling, I'll be open with you, I'll share everything. Just give me a chance to prove that I can be a better wife." I wanted to believe her, but the scars from her betrayal were deep. I needed time to process everything, to figure out what I truly wanted. "I can't make any promises right now. I'm hurt, and I need to think. Maybe some time apart would be good for both of us." Her face fell, and I could see the panic creeping into her eyes. "You want to separate? Mike, please don't do that. We can work through this together. Maybe, but I can't pretend that everything is okay when it's not," I said firmly. "I need space to think. We both do." The tension in the room thickened, and I could feel the weight of our fractured relationship hanging over us like a dark cloud. I turned and walked away, leaving her sitting alone on the couch, the sound of her quiet sobs echoing in my ears. I spent the next few days in a fog of emotions, trying to make sense of everything. My heart ached for the life we had built together, but my mind screamed for justice and clarity. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. I started reaching out to friends, seeking advice and support. "Man, I can't believe this is happening," my friend Jason said when I told him what was going on. "You deserve so much better than that. You need to take care of yourself first." I nodded, feeling grateful for his support. "I just don't know what to do. Part of me wants to make it work, but another part of me is terrified to trust her again. How do you just forget something like this?" "I don't think you can forget," he replied. "But you can choose to forgive if you think it's worth it. Just be sure you're not sacrificing your own happiness in the process." His words lingered in my mind, and I realized I had to put myself first for a change. I couldn't let the fear of losing Sarah overshadow the need to protect my own heart. Eventually, I decided to take a break from our routine. I packed a bag and headed to my brother's place, needing an escape from the memories that permeated our home. I told Sarah I needed time to think, and she agreed, though I could see the worry etched on her face. Living with my brother was a welcome distraction. We played video games, watched movies, and talked about everything but my problems. I appreciated the normalcy, the laughter. But deep down, the pain of what Sarah had done lingered like a shadow over my thoughts. As the days passed, I contemplated what I truly wanted. Could I forgive her? Would I ever be able to trust her again? The answers felt elusive. Then one day I received a text from Sarah. "Can we meet? I really need to talk." My heart raced, a mixture of anxiety and hope flooding my chest. What did she want to say? Would this be the moment we could begin to heal, or would it dig the knife in deeper? I took a deep breath and replied, "Okay, let's meet." I had no idea what this conversation would bring, but I knew it was time to face the music. To be continued. The moment I agreed to meet Sarah, a wave of emotions crashed over me. I was nervous and anxious, but I also felt a flicker of hope. Maybe she had thought things through and was ready to take responsibility for her actions. Or maybe it would just be another round of excuses that would leave me feeling even more frustrated. We decided to meet at a small cafe in town, neutral ground, somewhere public where we could talk without the weight of our home looming over us. As I sat at a table near the window, I felt the familiar knot in my stomach tight. This was the first time we would be seeing each other since the confrontation, and I had no idea what to expect. When Sarah walked in, my heart raced. She looked different, a bit more composed than I remembered, but her eyes were still red and puffy from crying. I didn't know whether to feel sympathy or anger. She approached the table slowly and I gestured for her to sit down. "Thanks for meeting me," she said softly, avoiding eye contact. "Let's just get to it, Sarah," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. "What did you want to talk about?" "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she began, fidgeting with her hands, "and I realize I've been selfish. I hurt you in ways that I can't even begin to express, and I want to make things right." I watched her intently, searching for sincerity in her words. "What does that look like for you?" She took a deep breath, clearly trying to gather her thoughts. "I want to go to counseling together. I know I need to understand why I cheated and address the issues in our marriage. I can't fix this alone, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn your trust back." I was taken aback. Counseling was a serious commitment, and her willingness to engage in it was a step in the right direction. But trust was something that couldn't be mended overnight. "It's going to take a lot more than just counseling, Sarah. You've broken trust, and I need to be sure you're truly committed to this." "I am," she insisted, her eyes finally meeting mine. "I'll prove it to you. I want to be a better wife, a better partner. I don't want to lose you." Her honesty disarmed me a little, but I still felt the weight of her betrayal, the lingering doubts gnawing at my resolve. "What about Kyle?" I asked, my voice steady. "Is he still in the picture?" "No," she exclaimed, shaking her head. "I ended things with him the minute I realized what I had done. I don't want him, I want you. I made a horrible mistake, and I don't expect you to forgive me easily, but I want to try to fix this." I couldn't deny that hearing her say she ended it with Kyle was a relief, but I also knew that it didn't erase the pain. "It's going to be a long road, Sarah. I need time to process everything, and I don't want you to think that just because you want to fix things, we can jump back into our old routine." "I understand," she replied, her voice trembling. "I'm willing to wait. I just need you to give me a chance." As we talked over coffee, I felt a mix of hope and skepticism. Could we truly rebuild what we had? Could I ever look at her the same way again? The conversation shifted to our shared memories, the good times, the laughter, the moments that made us fall in love in the first place. Talking about those times brought a bittersweet comfort, but it also reminded me of the depth of the betrayal. I wanted to believe we could find our way back, but the path ahead felt foggy and uncertain. As we finished our coffee, I finally spoke what had been on my mind. "I think taking a break from each other for a while might still be necessary. I need to be sure this isn't just a temporary feeling on your part." Her expression fell, and I could see the hurt in her eyes. "I thought we could work through this together," she said softly. "I want that too, but I need to prioritize my own mental health. I don't want to rush into anything when I'm still processing my feelings," I explained gently. "I hope you can understand." "I get it," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just wish things were different." "Me too," I said, but in my heart I knew that wishing wouldn't change the reality we faced. As we left the cafe, I found myself grappling with a mix of emotions. I wanted to believe in the possibility of healing, but the scars of betrayal were still fresh. I walked her to her car, and for a moment we stood in silence. "I'll reach out to you about counseling," she said eventually, her voice shaky. "Okay," I replied, forcing a nod. "Just take your time. We both need to think." As she drove away, I felt a wave of emotions wash over me. The conversation had given me a glimmer of hope, but it also left me feeling vulnerable and exposed. I didn't know what the future held for us, but I knew I had to take control of my own narrative. In the following days, I immersed myself in activities that brought me joy: hiking, spending time with friends, and rediscovering hobbies I had neglected. I needed to focus on myself, to rebuild my sense of self outside of my relationship with Sarah. But amidst all of this, there was one lingering thought that wouldn't leave my mind. Was I truly willing to try to forgive her? Could I reclaim the love I once had for her? The answers felt elusive, and as I navigated this complicated emotional landscape, I found myself grappling with the weight of my decision. To be continued. Time moved oddly in the days that followed my conversation with Sarah. Some moments felt like they lasted an eternity, while others slipped away in the blink of an eye. I tried to keep busy, but no matter how hard I focused on my own well-being, the reality of our broken relationship loomed like a dark cloud over my thoughts. I had agreed to counseling, but as the days turned into weeks, I wrestled with the idea of actually going through with it. Was I ready to face Sarah again in that setting? Did I even want to? The emotional roller coaster I was riding was exhausting, and every time I thought I was making progress, a wave of doubt would wash over me. Finally, Sarah reached out again. "Can we meet? I found a therapist who specializes in couples counseling." She texted. I felt a mixture of anxiety and anticipation as I read the message. Would this be the turning point we needed, or just another false start? After a few moments of contemplation, I replied, "Okay, let's meet." We decided to meet at a park, a place that held fond memories from our earlier days. As I approached, I felt the familiar tightness in my chest, the hope of rekindling something, the fear of being hurt again. Sarah was already sitting on a bench, her hair blowing gently in the breeze, her face a mixture of worry and determination. "Hey," she said softly as I sat down beside her, her eyes searching mine for any indication of how I felt. "Hey," I replied, keeping my tone neutral. "I'm really glad you agreed to meet," she started, her voice steady. "I've been doing a lot of thinking and I want to make this work. I hope you'll give me that chance." I nodded, knowing that this was an important conversation. "I do too, but it's going to be a process, Sarah. I'm still struggling with everything that happened." "I understand," she said, reaching for my hand. I hesitated for a moment before allowing her to take it. "I want to be transparent about everything. I don't want to hide anything from you anymore." "Good," I said, feeling a flicker of hope. "Let's start there. What did you want to tell me?" She took a deep breath, her eyes locking onto mine. "I've been reflecting on why I made those choices. It wasn't just about feeling neglected. It was about me not being honest with myself and with you. I ignored the signs that I was unhappy and instead sought validation elsewhere." Her honesty struck me. It was refreshing, but it also hurt to hear her admit that she had been so lost. "You could have come to me," I suggested gently. "You didn't have to go outside the marriage." "I know," she replied, her voice cracking. "I was weak. I've realized that I need to work on myself first to understand why I felt that way in the first place. And I want to do that with you by my side if you're willing." I considered her words. It was a huge ask, but the sincerity in her voice made me want to believe her. "Okay, if we're going to do this, I need to be sure you're committed to the process. No more secrets." "I promise," she said, squeezing my hand tighter. "I want to be open and honest, no matter how difficult it may be." We talked for hours, discussing our past, our feelings, and what we wanted for the future. It was raw and painful, but there was also a sense of relief in finally addressing the issues head-on. We both acknowledged the mistakes we had made, and for the first time in weeks I felt a glimmer of what could be a potential path toward healing. As we left the park, Sarah suggested we start seeing the therapist together next week. I agreed, but I still felt a nagging doubt in the back of my mind. Could I truly forgive her? Was I ready to trust her with my heart again? That night I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, replaying our conversation over and over in my head. I wanted to believe that we could rebuild our relationship, but the fear of being hurt again loomed large. The next morning, I decided to call my brother, seeking his advice. "You know, I've always been a proponent of love and forgiveness," he said when I explained my situation. "But you have to make sure that you're not just doing this out of obligation. You deserve happiness too, Mike." "I know," I replied, feeling the weight of his words. "But what if she really is committed to making it work? Can I give her a second chance?" "Trust your gut," he said. "You know yourself better than anyone. Just don't rush into anything because you feel bad for her or because you miss the good times. Your heart matters in this too." As I hung up, I was flooded with emotions. I realized that I needed to prioritize my own happiness moving forward. I had to be honest with myself about whether I still loved her and if I could truly forgive. The day of our first counseling session arrived, and I felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Sarah was waiting for me at the therapist's office, visibly nervous but determined. As we walked in together, I could feel the weight of our shared history pressing down on us. The therapist, Dr. Reed, greeted us with a warm smile and ushered us into her office. It was a cozy space, filled with soft light and comfortable furniture, but I felt anything but relaxed. "Thank you both for being here," Dr. Reed began. "I know that discussing these issues can be extremely challenging, but I'm here to help guide you through this process." As we sat down, I felt a sense of vulnerability wash over me. I glanced at Sarah, who looked anxious but hopeful. This was the moment where we would begin to unpack our pain and work toward understanding each other again. "Let's start with what brought you here," Dr. Reed suggested, looking between us. Sarah took a deep breath and began to speak. She shared her feelings of loneliness, how she felt disconnected from me, and how those feelings led her to make the choices she did. As she spoke, I could feel the tension in my chest tighten. But this time I didn't interrupt. I let her continue, wanting to hear her truth. Dr. Reed guided us through our feelings, asking questions that prompted both of us to reflect deeply. It was uncomfortable at times, but I could feel something shifting. Slowly, we began to peel back the layers of hurt and misunderstanding. As our session came to a close, I felt a sense of relief. It was just the beginning, but it felt like a step toward something better. When we left the office, I turned to Sarah, who was smiling cautiously. "I think this is going to help," she said, her eyes shining with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. "Me too," I replied, my heart feeling a little lighter. But as we walked away, I knew we had a long road ahead. The path to forgiveness wouldn't be easy, and the scars of betrayal would take time to heal. I felt the weight of the journey we had embarked on, but I also felt a spark of hope. As I looked at Sarah, I realized that while the future was uncertain, we were both willing to fight for it. To be continued. As the weeks turned into months, the process of healing felt both arduous and transformative. Our counseling sessions became a regular part of our routine, a sacred space where we could share our thoughts, fears, and aspirations. Every meeting was like peeling back another layer of the onion. It was uncomfortable but necessary. I found myself confronted by emotions I had long ignored, and I was grateful for Dr. Reed's guidance as we navigated this complex terrain together. Sarah put in the effort too. She took responsibility for her actions, consistently expressing her remorse and her commitment to rebuilding our trust. It felt strange at times, like I was getting to know a new version of her, a Sarah who was more open, more vulnerable. But old habits die hard, and I still found myself questioning her sincerity. Could I fully trust her again? One evening, as we were sitting on the couch together, I decided to address the elephant in the room. "Do you really think we can get back to where we were before?" I asked, my voice wavering slightly. Sarah looked at me, her gaze steady. "I hope so, Mike. But I know it's going to take time. I love you and I want to work for us." Her words held a weight I hadn't felt in a long time. There was sincerity in her eyes, a glimmer of hope that ignited something deep within me. But the scars would remain. I had to remind myself constantly that trust is built through actions and not just words. Our journey took us through ups and downs. Some days were filled with laughter and warmth, while others felt like we were stumbling through a fog. We had disagreements, and sometimes I would find myself slipping back into distrust, but each time we faced it together. One night after a particularly intense session, I decided to give her a chance to prove her commitment. I suggested we do something fun together, a date night, something to remind us of the good times we had shared. "Let's go bowling," I said, grinning at her. "Remember our first date?" "I do," she replied, her face lighting up. "You were so terrible at it." "Hey, I was just a beginner." I laughed, the tension from earlier dissipating slightly. We spent the evening joking and teasing each other, and slowly I began to feel like we were reconnecting. We were laughing like we used to, and I realized how much I missed that easy camaraderie. As we walked back to the car, I felt a warmth in my chest. Maybe we could find our way back. The laughter and joy we shared reminded me of why I fell in love with her in the first place. But just as I was starting to feel hopeful, doubts would creep in again. I still fought with the fear of betrayal, the nagging worry that she might stray again. Each time I felt the panic rising, I took a deep breath and reminded myself of the work we had done. During one of our counseling sessions, Dr. Reed encouraged me to articulate my fears to Sarah. "It's important for her to understand how deep this runs for you," she advised. So I did. I opened up about the sleepless nights, the anxiety that crawled under my skin, and the fear that I would never fully trust her again. I watched as tears welled up in Sarah's eyes, and she reached out to hold my hand tightly. "I'm so sorry for the pain I've caused you, Mike," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "I don't want you to ever feel that way again. I want to be the wife you deserve, the partner you can trust." As we continued our journey together, I found myself reflecting on forgiveness and trust. It wasn't an easy road, and I realized it was a continuous process, one that required patience, understanding, and commitment from both of us. Then came the day I had been waiting for, a moment when I finally felt ready to forgive, when I genuinely believed we could move forward. We were sitting on the couch together, watching one of our favorite movies, and Sarah leaned into me, resting her head on my shoulder. In that moment, I felt a rush of love and gratitude. I realized how far we'd come and how much we had fought for this. I took a deep breath and turned to her. "You know, I think I'm ready." "Ready for what?" she asked, her eyes studying my face intently. "To forgive you," I said, my voice steady but filled with emotion. "I want to move forward, Sarah. I want us to heal and build a new future together." Her face broke into a radiant smile, and tears streamed down her cheeks. "Oh, Mike, thank you. I promise I won't take this for granted." We embraced tightly, and in that moment I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It wasn't going to be easy, and I knew there would still be challenges ahead, but I felt a renewed sense of hope for our relationship. In the end, I learned that love isn't just about the good times. It's about facing the storms together, working through the pain, and coming out stronger on the other side. I understood that we had both made mistakes, but we were willing to learn from them and grow. Our journey was far from over, but I knew that as long as we committed to the work and remained open with each other, there was a chance for us to create a beautiful future together. And as I looked at Sarah, I realized that I still loved her deeply. Together, we were ready to forge a new path, one built on the foundations of trust and understanding. In that moment, I felt hopeful again, an emotion I thought I had lost forever. No matter what happened, we would face it together, one step at a time.